sent them here. For whatever be our watchword, conquer and prevail. Hail to thee, our alma mater, such plains then would all hail. When across the world we wander, this will be our song. Honor, love, and true devotion, all to here belong. For whatever be our watchword, conquer and prevail. Hail to thee, our alma mater, such plains then would all hail.
I'd like to call to order tonight's meeting of August 27th, the regular public meeting. Mr. Jones, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Barbe?
Here.
Ms. Bauer?
Here.
Ms. Boroff? Ms. Brody?
Here.
Ms. Siriani?
Here.
Ms. Williams?
Present.
Ms. Winkler?
Here.
Dr. Kolakowski?
Here.
Mr. Murray?
Here. Quorum is present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, in executive session, prior to the meeting, we covered personnel, HIB, and legal status. I'm now going to move over to the superintendent for the superintendent's report.
Thank you. We recently had 2 community open houses for the referendum, and a third open house is coming, which will be virtual on September 9th at 7 p.m. And you can register for that by visiting spfk12.org/future, and there you will get a Zoom link. Today, we also welcomed our new teachers in new teacher orientation. It took place yesterday and it will tomorrow too. And we have over 30 new eager educators joining our ranks. So thank you to our HR department for bringing all of those new educators on board. And thank you, Dr. McGarry, for designing the program along with your supervisory team and the other administrators to welcome our new staff. And finally, many of our current teachers are already in their classrooms. And if they're not in their classrooms, I know that they are working on making dynamic lesson plans. It's such an exciting time of the year for all of us as we get ready to start up for the 24-25 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Mast. Business Administrator report, Mr. Jones.
Yep. So it's been a pretty busy summer at Evergreen. So we are just finishing up. We expect it to be open on time. Been a lot of hiccups getting it through so quickly, but we have been able to. Inspections are this week. Furniture is there. Of course, a couple items we still need to order, but overall, pretty solid for how quickly we've done it. Our stairs at the high school are wrapping up in the back. They're brand new stairs. We're waiting on some items that are back ordered, but it's essentially completed at this point. We're still waiting. Our bleachers at the high school auditorium or the high school gym are coming in soon. We'll miss a couple games without them, but not too bad. They've took them out, redid the floors, and we're just waiting for the install. It'll be fairly quick. Should happen shortly. And then we have some new cameras being installed on the football field, most likely in the next week or two to expand our security coverage. So lots of stuff going on. Our first phase of our audit was completed, and they'll be coming later in September to finish up. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Board President announcement. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have the advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies in which any business affecting the interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, Scotch Plains Family Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by and having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Board of Education offices located at 313 South Avenue, Fanwood, New Jersey. Such notice was also provided in written notice forwarded to the Union County Hawk, the Star Ledger, the Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, and the Borough Clerk of Fanwood in the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings as adopted April 25th, 2024. I will now pass over to our Student Board Rep, Mac, for any updates.
So I have a shorter report today, but today SGA hosted the new student orientation today at the high school. I was there and I helped run the event and it went really smoothly. We had mainly freshmen come to the high school for the first time. It's exciting. They get to see their schedules and tour the building for the first time. And the event went really well. Also, fall athletic preseasons have begun and games have started. We have our first home football game this Thursday at the high school. So make sure to come out and support. And that's all I have for today.
Great. Thanks, Mac. Okay, instructional updates. I believe we have the NJ Graduation Proficiency Assessment results. We have a host of presenters.
Yes.
So-
And slides behind me.
We will move out of the way.
So good evening, everyone. I often sort of get asked that question of, why do you work 12 months? What do you do in the summer when schools aren't in session? And there's a whole lot that goes on behind the scenes during the summer, and one of those is really sort of digging into student assessment data, such as the NJGPA. And so this is the first in two parts of the state assessment report from 2023 to 2024. So tonight I'll be presenting results from the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment, or the NJGPA, for the class of 2025, which includes our very own student representative. First, let's provide some context. The NJGPA was first administered to 11th grade students in March of 2022. It aligns to the state's Algebra 1, Geometry, and 10th grade ELA standards. For the class of 2025, this assessment is just one pathway for meeting graduation requirements. And students are scored either, quote, graduation ready, or, quote, not yet graduation ready. So we'll start with our English language arts results. So based on the assessment results, close to 92% of our new seniors earned a graduation ready score, compared to the state average of 81.6%. When we include students who passed through other measures or who were exempt, that number rises to 98%. This means only 2% of our students are currently not yet graduation ready in ELA. So think of a 98% as the district getting an A in ELA, right? So looking at demographic breakdown, we see varied performance across different groups. For instance, in the group that's known as 2 or more races, you'll see that the change from 2023 to 2024 is an increase of 15 percentage points. While our Asian student group saw a 9.4% decrease, which will certainly be looking at those results and trying to determine if this is a trend and what our needs are around that. So to talk about what the data suggests, I'd like to invite our Supervisor of English Language Arts, K-6 through 12, Dr. Liz McKenna, to share her analysis with us.
Thanks, Dr. McGarry. I would also like to point out that a 98% is actually an A+. So obviously, when we're thinking about celebrations here, we should celebrate the fact that 98% of our seniors are graduation ready as dictated by the state. the first thing that we want to celebrate is that tremendous number. The second thing that we think is notable to celebrate is when we dive more deeply into specifically how we perform on individual state standards. So the state provides us with evidence statements that says, here are the exact standards that were tested, here's how many students received questions on that standard, and here's how the students did. In all standards in which more than 2 students were tested, we scored at least 10 percentage points above the state average, which is absolutely something to celebrate. I, in particular, took a look at our nonfiction reading, because that's something that we as a department have been specifically focusing on, and there we performed almost twice as high as the state standard. So we really are celebrating the fact that we made some curricular changes, and those curricular changes are bearing fruit. We do want to take a look at some next steps and some wonderings. One of the questions I always have is that 6% of students who didn't get graduation ready on the test, but did through another pathway. And another pathway could include an IEP exemption, or it could include an SAT, a PSAT, an ACT, and often it's really one of that latter category rather than the former category. So I want to take a look at those students in particular to think about what was their attitude towards the test. Was this just a bad test day for them? Were they absent the day before? Did they forget it was the test that day? And fortunately, when we're able to look at just one class's data, we really are able to dig that deeply into specific students, which will also help us to take a look at those subgroups that Dr. McGarry was talking about. So in places where we rose, we want to see what did we do differently this year that might be helpful for us to take a look at in the future. And then in places where our students did not perform as well as they have historically, we want to say, okay, is this a case of that's this group of students, or is there something that we could or did do differently to get those outcomes? Another thing I took a look at, again, going deeply into the standards, was one of our reading literature standards around analyzing character and themes. We performed not as well above the state, and that feels like the bread and butter of an English teacher. So one of the, I think, benefits of this year's assessment is going to be that the New Jersey Student Learning Standards for ELA have been updated, and they're more specific. So hopefully in next year's assessment, we'll get a more specific breakdown of where it is exactly that students might need a little bit of extra support. But we are extremely proud of the performance of the students this year and every year.
Dr. McKenna? So moving on to mathematics. In mathematics, 80.9% of our students, or rising seniors, are graduation ready, compared to just 54.7% across the state of New Jersey. Including other measures and exemptions, as Dr. McKenna was talking about, 96.5% of our students have met the requirements, leaving just 3.5% not yet graduation ready. Our demographic breakdown in math shows some significant improvements. For example, our Black or African American students and students of 2 or more races both saw increases of 19 percentage points over the class of 2024, the students that just left us for college. However, we also see areas needing attention, such as a 5.7% decrease for our Hispanic or Latino students. To talk about what the mathematics data suggests, I'd like to invite our supervisor of mathematics 6 through 12, Matthew Oren, to share some deeper analysis with us.
Hi everyone. We didn't quite get that A+, but we're at an A. I think maybe an A+ if we round it up. But I think that is a really good mark, having 96.5% of our students meet that graduation requirement. That's fantastic, especially when you consider it in terms of the entire state. Some of the strengths that I've noticed looking at the data is our students are really good at function, similarity, and right triangles, which are all the foundations for higher level math classes such as trigonometry, calculus, things that they would be taking in their post-secondary educational career. Students also were very good at questions that dealt with skills, concepts, and procedures. So for example, if a question asked, it had a right triangle and it asked the students to find the missing side, they could easily use an algorithm like the Pythagorean theorem to find that missing side. Some of the areas that I kind of would like to focus this year on is having students look at reasoning and modeling in the classroom, and to do that through open-ended problems. So almost like that same example that I just gave, having a context for students to kind of understand the problem. So think of it as like you're an architect and you're building the roof of a house, and the long leg has to be 1 inch longer than the shortest leg, and the hypotenuse has to be 2 inches longer than the shortest leg. What are some possible answers? A question like that allows all students to kind of provide some information. They can take some guesses, they can think about it, and then you can have those discussions more organically. I think that would really help in those areas of reasoning and modeling in our classroom. And so one of the things I'm thinking for this upcoming year is working with teachers to kind of have those contextual problems that allow all students to kind of access the mathematics and have those strong discussions in the classroom. The other thing that I was also looking at was, even though we had a really big gain with our Black and African American students, that still was only 51% of the students were meeting the graduation. So I'd like to see that those gains kind of continue with our subgroups. I really strongly feel that having those open-ended, those low floor, high ceiling problems in the classroom will really benefit students. I look at that as a way that we can have all students access to math rather than just students think, I'm not a math student, I'm not going to do well on this test. I want them to all kind of persevere and work through those problems. So that's something that for this year, an actual, action, I guess, for our department is going to.
So to conclude, while we're proud of our students' overall performance, we recognize there's always room for improvement, as both of our supervisors have talked about. And we're committed to addressing the areas we've identified, ensuring all of our students are well prepared for graduation and beyond. So thank you for your attention and for your interest in these results. And thanks to folks like Matt for persevering through the NJGPA. Your last state standardized test. Are there any questions for myself or my colleagues? I saw this former math teacher nodding quite a bit during the presentation.
Any questions for the instructional update from anyone? Well, thank you all for the data. It was great to see that we are making some progress in a lot of key areas, so thank you. Okay, we are going to move to our first public comment section. In accordance with Scotch Plains Family Public School Bylaws 01640165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comment. Maximum 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. Speakers, please state your full name and the town in which you reside. Please note boards use public comment as an opportunity to listen to citizen concerns, but not to debate issues or enter into a question and answer session or a cross-examination between the public and the individual members. Be aware, not all issues brought before the board will be resolved that evening. Boards may respond to public comment by seeking additional information or by delegating the authority to investigate the issue to the superintendent or his or her designee. So if anybody has a public comment, please step forward. No. Okay, seeing no one, then I will close the first public comment section, and we will now move over to letters to the board. 6 emails were received and sent to the appropriate administrator. Do we have any committee reports? No committee reports. Great, we will move over to superintendent.
Okay, thank you. So number 1 is for the board to approve the additional ESY 2024-2025 school year out of district placements. 2 is to approve the HIBs from June 20th, 2024. 3 is to approve the field trips request for 24-25. 4 is to affirm submission of the 24-25 annual statement of assurance for the comprehensive equity plan for 2019 through 2022. For 5, the board to authorize the submission of the request to eliminate a elementary special ed program that is no longer needed. 6 is to approve the 24 through 2027 language instruction educational program. It's a 3-year plan. 7 is to approve the annual code of conduct that has been reviewed under the direction of Dr. Rabimbis with the administrative team. 8 is to approve the revision of the 24-25 board meeting schedule.
Thank you, Dr. Mass. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Kolakowski, do we have a second? Ms. Barb? Any comments or questions?
I have one question.
Sure.
Were there any, what were the changes to the student code of conduct? Or,
Sure. The first change was just the addition of language regarding restorative justice.
Hey, Lisa, your
Dr.
mic.
Bimbis, you gotta switch it on, yep.
Just push it up.
Thank you. Am I on now? Good. The first was the addition of language regarding restorative justice in the overall student code of conduct. So the beginning part is a district statement. So the administrative team felt it was important to outline restorative justice practices that we believe should be more explicitly stated. At the high school, there were additional changes regarding updating language regarding the use of ID cards, the use of cell phones. Those were 2 that were updated. There was just language consistency that they changed just to make it clearer for the high school. At the middle schools, there were no changes in the content of it. The administrators felt it was important to alphabetize the list of infractions to make it more user-friendly. So that was the only major change. And at the elementary level, there were no changes.
and for the cell phones and the ID cards are like the cell phones, that's related to our policies, our current policies, or?
It's related to our policies regarding use of cell phones, and it's also in regard to some future pieces that we're trying to instill as a district as far as responsible use of technology.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Mast, personnel.
I'd like the board to approve the recommendations for personnel that we discussed this evening in exec. And I would like to move that the board approve the following board official: Christopher Jones to be the appointed affirmative action officer for employment practices.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Kolkowski, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Williams, any comments, questions? Mr. Jones, please call the roll.
Ms. Barbe?
Yes.
Ms. Bauer?
Yes.
Ms. Brody?
Yes.
Ms. Siriani?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Dr. Kolakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes, motion carries. Business functions. Mr. Jones.
I forgot to mention my opening about the enrollments. We didn't have the enrollment. We have 30 or 40 students that are still in the enrollment process, so we don't have the final numbers. But preliminary numbers shows us up about 10 or so. And I just want to say I did look at the Orchard Park development, and the majority of the larger units haven't opened yet. We have one opening in October, another one opening in January, and then a third building that they don't have a time frame on. We expect 50 students out of there, 50 to 60. And for the units that still need to be opened, that represents about 43 of those. So more to come on that as the year goes, as that opens. In terms of the agenda items, staff training, related services, special ed, book disposals, a transportation agreement with another school district, some professional services, the special ed settlement agreement, IDA, approving and accepting IDA funds. One on the last meeting because they didn't have the numbers out yet. Approving our non-public participating schools. Custodial supplies. So this we're switching vendors. Our previous vendor was bought out by a larger company, and we found another supplier with some employees from there who started up, and they're giving us a fairly significant discount, 10 to 15% on these items. So they're also state contract, and that leads to the next number 10, which is us joining the Monmouth Ocean County Educational Services Commission. No cost, but they are part of that co-op. And it'll open up more companies we can purchase from as well. 11 is the public vote. 12 is a standard maximum amount for evaluation costs for special education. 13 is the reading recovery program for teachers. 14 is me being purchasing agent. Should have been on the last meeting. And then the standard drills, financial reports, disbursement listings, and payment of our bills.
Do we have a motion to approve the business items on the agenda? Do we have a second? Do we have comments, questions for Mr. Jones?
I have a question. Just explain, like, for example, in 13, that, does that mean our teachers go to a different district to receive professional development? Is that typical? Like, is that just because of that program? Just curious.
Reading
It's
recovery?
very specific to the reading recovery program, and there are certain training sites that they attend. Yeah.
I have a question also. The number 4 Willingboro Transportation Agreement.
That is for a student who, let me make sure I get this right. Yeah, they go there. No. They go there, right? This teacher, the student goes there and they do the transportation. I know they do the transportation. It might be for, actually, no, I think it's for a school down there that they also transport their students to. So by jumping on with them, we get a cheaper price.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
13,000 is extremely cheap. We pay parents more than that. And most of our routes are 70, 80,000. Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Jones? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move over to board policies. Hold on. Have her slide that up.
Is it on?
Yeah, she turned around.
Okay. So for tonight, I'd like to move that the board approve second and final reading for policy 8500 food service. We discussed this back in June that we were looking at making some changes based on some students being in arrears on their lunch accounts. So I made the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the June 20th and July 16th minutes?
So moved.
Ms. Winkler, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Barv? Any comments or questions on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New board business. We have a motion to approve an exchange student.
So moved.
So, anybody second?
Second.
Do we have any comments or questions on this?
I think it's great. Yeah.
I think it's cool that this was a student who actually was hosted by this family in the district last year. So that's exciting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Other board business, liaison reports. Do we have any liaison reports?
I wanted to just give everyone a reminder that on September 18th, so it's morning of the day we have our next board meeting, is the First Garden State Coalition of Schools meeting. And it's very nearby in New Providence at the Morris Union Jointure. There'll be a guest, Maureen Brogan, who's program director of the Traumatic Loss Coalition, which is part of Rutgers University. And so it should be a great program. She's speaking on middle school mental health and suicide prevention. So I'm sure you'll get reminders in your email, but just wanted to highlight it so you can mark your calendar.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer. Any other reports? Seeing none. Any requests to attend workshops? Seeing none, we have a few resolutions rather. Latino and Hispanic Heritage Month resolution. Arts and Education resolution. Suicide Prevention Month resolution. Do we have motions to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Winkler? Second, Ms. Williams. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will now move to the second and final public comment. In accordance with Scotts Plains Family Public School Bylaw 01640165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments, maximum 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first, and if time remains, speakers may address other matters. Speakers, please state your name and the town in which you reside. Please note, boards use the public comment period as an opportunity to listen to citizen concern, but not to debate issues or enter into a question and answer session or a cross-examination between the public and individual members. Be aware that not all issues brought before the board meeting will be resolved that evening. Boards may respond to public comment by seeking additional information or by delegating the authority to investigate the issue to the superintendent or his or her designee. I will now open the second and final public comment section.
There you go. Thank you. John Denning, Scotch Plains. I'd like to speak on the upcoming referendum. First, I would encourage anyone that hears this message to vote no on the referendum. We are in a school, and things that are important in schools are first to do your homework. And this board has not thoroughly examined alternatives. They have simply presented one solution and claimed it is our only solution. There is no credible alternatives analysis associated with this work. Second, the dreaded show your work. The district has been collecting information. They claim to put out a public information page, which is intended to get people to vote yes. However, they have not put on that page a great deal of information that they do have access to, and that would be useful for allowing intelligent people to make an informed decision. Now, I have gathered some of that information through an Open Public Records Act. I'd be happy to share it with anyone. My name is John Denning, one N, like in gardening in Denning. You can reach out to me on Facebook and I will share it with you. But we've been told we're on the edge of a demographic cliff. But in the last 10 years, the high school population, according to your demographic report, has gone down 32 students. The middle school has gone up a whopping 6 students. First through fourth has gone up 76 students. Where the real change in the district has come is in the pre-K and K program, which has gone up 146 students. Why is that? You can see it in the demographics report. When we switched from half-day kindergarten to full-day kindergarten, the enrollment jumped. Not only did it jump, it continued to jump. So we cut the available number of classrooms for them in half, because now they need a full-day classroom, and we've expanded the number. The district only added 6 classrooms. That was wholly inadequate simply to convert from half-day to whole day, much less address the increase in population in that, plus the tuition-based pre-K program. That is where the growth is occurring. That is where the problem is. This referendum is about undoing past poor planning. And I urge people not to continue to do poor planning, but to do proper planning as we go forward. This date is very ill-conceived. We are in a period of extremely high inflation, extremely high prices, extremely high interest rates. Those are a bad combination for borrowing money. There's also the issue of what this does to our community, which has been downplayed. The demographic report estimates that 30% of our elementary children will have to switch schools. That is probably the floor, okay? The redistricting has to be approved by the state. You know that the state is going to have other interests in this than simply most efficiently packing kids into the school. You may have to add busing routes. I know there's a claim that we won't, but you may have to. That's the reality of it. You may be shipping kids all over the town, and you're disrupting 1/3 of the elementary school population minimum. So I encourage everyone that hears this to vote no. Let's take the time, let's plan it properly, and let's hold the referendum on a date that's convenient for people, not from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. where people who are working can't make it. Let's hold it at a time where everyone can come and have their voice heard. And those that want it can vote for it, but they're also voting to shave $10,000 off their property value. That's what's average will happen when you have to pay that much more taxes versus the mortgage rate. That is what's going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
That's the reality of it.
Thank you. By over a minute now. If you could just wrap up your thoughts, please, sir.
Yeah, I know. Mr. Murray is the presiding officer.
Yes.
He has asked me, and I will respond to him. You have no authority to interrupt me here. And this
Sir,
is
you're
not the
exceeding your
first time
time. You
you've
have
done
no more
that.
authority to continue to speak, sir. Your time
Actually,
is
if you
up.
look at the rules, I do.
Sir,
but I'm going to
Mr.
stop because you do not have any interest in hearing what I have to say.
Sir,
Okay?
Mr. Denning.
My records are on the.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Well, you're welcome.
Does anyone else have a public comment? No, seeing no one, I will close the second and final public comment speaking section. Upcoming meetings, September 18th is our regular public meeting at 8 p.m. here. And go to the order. Does anybody have anything for the good order? Dr. Kulkowski?
Welcome back, everybody. I'm happy to see everyone. Glad to be back. I love the new location in the high school media center. And I look forward to seeing everybody at Thursday's first football game. I am going to be there tomorrow. Thursday. Thank you.
I would just like to give a shout out, I think, from all of us to the staff for all that goes on in the summer. I know people think not much goes on in the summer, but a lot of hiring, curriculum work, planning transportation, just so many things are happening in the summer. And so kudos to what's from all of us for what's unseen but been happening.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer. Other? Go to the order. I just want to wish everybody a good remainder of your summer for those that have not already started, and good luck to all the students and staff. We're looking forward to another good year. It's another safe year. And that's all I had.
A question. We already have another rising junior board rep identified, correct? Is that correct?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
That's in process. We do that in the month of September.
Okay, that's my question.
Oh, and just to say what I always say, in a week and a half, everyone be careful and drop off. It gets a little crazy out there. So just be safe and have a great start to the new school year.
Anyone else? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Dr.
Second.
Kulkowski, second from Ms. Winkler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.